Ciao ragazzi, Shane Ireland here.
Andy Wyke.
And we are obviously talking about Toscano cigars. I don't think it's a secret. I've been a huge fan of Toscano for many years. So much so that I have quite a large collection of some of the travel retail exclusives and some of the stuff that's only available in Italy.
Yeah, you have a great selection.
I have a great selection of Toscanos, and I also smoke a lot of the stuff that is available here in the U.S. market. And basically, I find that as a cigar and a pipe smoker, Toscano represents and occupies a really specific part of my rotation of smoking. I find them to be really sort of good crossovers between those two mediums. The fact that it's dark-fired tobacco gives you a little bit of that sort of pipe tobacco feel and vibe and some of that complexity that you don't necessarily get from like New World cigars. But the ease of cutting and lighting one and the portability of cutting and lighting one, and honestly, even the sort of economic standpoint where you can smoke Amazzado. There's just so much about Toscano that I love. I love the history, I love the character, and I love the experience of smoking them. So Andy and I wanted to get together and chat a little bit about some of the line and some of the new offerings. And
Yeah, I feel like there's been so many videos where you and I are talking about Toscanos, but then like, it's like, why don't we just do a video about it? You know what I mean? So yeah, so for those out there who are into pipes, into pipe tobacco, have dabbled into cigars, can you talk a little bit, Shane, about why someone should try a Toscano for the first time?
So, I would say that it is a unique experience. It's a singular experience in smoking. It's not directly comparable to pipes or cigars or cigarettes or literally anything else. The magic of the Toscano and the sort of lore and history of it, how it was created, sort of by happenstance, by accident, allowing tobacco that was left outside that got wet, allowing that to ferment and then continuing to roll cigars out of it. The fact that they're not constructed the same way New World cigars are. There's no binder, for example. Now that is not entirely true of their entire line. We'll get back to that in a second. But the traditional format of a share root or of a Toscano cigar, a Tuscan style cigar, is that it is wrapper and filler. And they are 100% dark-fired tobaccos from different origins, different crops, different blends. And that's where you get the variance in strength and complexity and flavor. But like I said, I think it's a great short smoke for me. It's a great like working in the yard, walking the dog kind of smoke. Always travel with a case of Toscanos with me for those moments either before or after dinner when I only have time for a quick smoke. I find them to be a bit of a palate reset.
I was going to say the same thing, actually. Yeah.
Which it's a bold cigar. It's a bold tobacco, but for some reason, maybe because of the sort of dry finish and nature of most of these blends, that it's all dark fired. It tends to reset my palate. If I've been smoking a lot of pipe or a lot of cigar, I can sort of reset and get back to my roots with a Toscano. Really, for me, though, it's usually my first smoke of the day.
Same.
It's usually my first smoke of the day. It sort of primes my palate.
It like wakes it up, I feel like.
It wakes it up. It pairs extremely well with coffee, almost any of these blends. Now, different coffee preferences, different smoking preferences, of course, but there's just something about a Toscano and an espresso that is sort of unmatched.
Yeah.
S tier sort of pairing.
Maybe a little limoncello. You know.
Well, that doesn't hurt either. But the lore and the culture around Toscanos, like going back to Clint Eastwood, and even to some of the figures in culture, in pop culture in Italy, some of the ones that are namesakes of the lines, actually.
Right.
Modigliani is a good example. Like, there's a reason that these guys were so loyal to the Toscano as a format of smoking, and it's just because once you get it, it sort of grabs a hold of you emotionally and practically, and you end up returning to it for comfort.
Yeah.
Like maybe even more than I do to certain cigars and certain pipes. So Andy, I know where my journey started and has ended up with Toscano. Where did you start, and where would you recommend starting for somebody who's new to the format, to the brand?
I think the first Toscano that I ever smoked was one of the Toscanellos.
Yeah.
And that's because like they're already cut Amazzado. Like they were just
very handy, very practical.
I think like you gave me one, or Cassie might have given me one. I think it might have been like one of the like almond or amaretto flavored ones.
Yeah.
And they were just like a nice little like we were we had just had dinner or something, and
Yeah.
then, just sort of finishing up like a little dessert smoke. But I was really interested because I was like, whoa, this is pretty nuts. And then I started getting into some of the
non-flavored.
the non-flavored ones. I think like Classico,
Yeah.
the Antique Reserva.
Yeah, Antica Reserva.
Yeah, I think those are probably like my staples.
Yeah.
Right there.
I think Classico is an excellent place to start. I mean, it is a little less strong than some of the blends that have more American dark fired leaf in them, or even American dark fired wrappers. I think typically the scale of strength and flavor is that the American tobaccos tend to boost spiciness and boost nicotine content, and that the Italian tobaccos are a little more subtle. They're a little less dark fired,
A little more floral.
a little more floral, a little more earthy, and a little less spicy. And Classico is a good place to start. I mean, yeah, it's they rate it as a 2 out of 5. It is an Italian wrapper, and they're aged for 6 months. So in addition to the fermentation process, all Toscano cigars are aged after rolling. And Classico gives you like a really good middle of the road idea of what the level of fermentation, the strength of the tobaccos, and the actual aging post-production. Like, it's right down the middle as far as all those things go. And a lot of people stick with Classico, and that becomes their favorite. I think for me, I sort of quickly moved on to the Antico, which is a little more bold, a little more flavor, a little more fermentation, and a little more strength. It's spicy, they're fuller, they're aged for 12 months, so twice the amount of aging as the Classico. And this is where, in my travels in Italy, most of the guys that I know that were Toscano smokers, everyday daily driver was the Antico. It was like kind of far and away. I'd be shocked if it wasn't the best-selling Toscano in Italy. I don't know that for a fact, but I would guess that it's up there. And then you have the Extra Vecchio, the Garibaldi, the Modigliani. They're all just like variations on this format that are fun to explore. And for a long time, I smoked the Modigliani pretty frequently. And then you have things like the Master Age series. The Master Age series is really interesting because it takes larger format Toscanos. So there's a couple of different sizes that you can find. It takes some of the larger format ones, and it plays with the aging and the fermentation in really interesting and proprietary ways. So there's slight differences in blend in all of the editions so far, 1 through 4. And some differences in format and size too. So it's really interesting to explore, but it's basically the cream of the crop, the most premium hand-rolled production that you can find. These days, I will say, 9 times out of 10, I'm smoking an Originale,
Okay.
which is just, again, sort of the classic hand-rolled Toscano, and I think it has all of those sort of bold flavors, a little bit of underlying sweetness, and a really interesting balance of the American and the Italian tobaccos. That's my go-to these days anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, and what we're smoking right now is actually like one of Toscano's newest releases, which is the Terre.
The Terre.
Which, am I correct in saying, Shane, this is all like Italian leaf, right?
The Terre is a complete Italian cigar. The wrapper and the fillers are all from various regions in Italy, the wrapper being from Tuscany specifically. This is a 10-month aged version of the Toscano format. And previously, they were only available in Italy, too. So making their debut in the U.S. market is a big deal. And yeah, I mean, for me, Andy, I don't know what you're getting so far. It's a little lighter on the start, and we're smoking these Ammazzato, which means that we're getting, when you smoke Ammazzato, you're starting from the middle of the cigar, which is the biggest part of the ring gauge. That's going to give you the biggest burst of flavor instantly.
Yeah.
So people mostly cut these because it's an economical thing. You can get 2 cigars for the price of 1. But the blenders at Toscano actually blend with smoking full format and Ammazzato in mind at the same time. So they test both ways, and they smoke both ways, and they blend for both of those experiences.
Balance.
It's about balance. So if you want to have a longer smoke, smoke the whole thing. Pick whichever end you want to light and smoke the whole thing. If you want to make them last longer, or if you want to experience the most intense part of flavor right off of the bat, then smoke Ammazzato. I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm smoking Ammazzato.
Same.
It's a time proposition thing for me more than anything else, and it's also
sort
just
of fits into that rotation that we were talking about, like in between smokes, waking up the palate, first thing in the morning.
Quick smoke with a coffee in the morning. But it is really interesting to take a cigar that you smoke Amasato all the time and then take a nice Saturday afternoon with a book or something like that and really just smoke the whole thing and see what the difference is. It's a building in intensity of flavor, and it's more of a ride than the instant burst of complexity that Amasato offers. But yeah, the Terre for me so far, I'm really enjoying it. I would say it might be one of my top blends that are 100% Italian leaf. It has more body than I typically associate with those blends that are 100% Italian. Really great aromatic qualities. I mean,
there is like an Oriental quality to it. Like if we're comparing it to pipe tobaccos, like there is sort of that like,
it's the floral earthiness. There's a little bit of spice,
a little sour,
like a little sour. Yeah, and I think some of that is that fermentation for sure. But it has a lot of body without a ton of strength. Which I think for a lot of smokers is a good thing. And again, it's a nice change of pace for some of the heavier and more American leaf forward blends that Toscano offers.
Yeah, I would say it's like a little bit more. I don't think delicate's the right word, but nuanced,
elegant.
Yeah, elegant.
Elegant is a good way to put it. I think this would pair well with a variety of lighter bodied wines.
Sure.
And maybe lighter roast coffees, maybe some pour over. But it still has enough body and flavor to stand up if you are a smoker that craves those bolder and spicier flavors. It's really good.
It's super
really good. I also think these are going to age well. And I will say now that a lot of you out there might be familiar with the practice of aging cigars. A lot of you might be familiar with the practice of cellaring pipe tobacco. It took me a while, and it sort of happened by, happy accident. But a handful of my friends in Italy who are avid Toscano smokers have shared with me over the years some stuff that they had laid down and aged. Now, Toscanos are dry cured. They will hold up for a reasonably long time in their packaging without any sort of humidification. But if you do put them in a humidor, and I would suggest keeping them separate from the rest of your cigars, if you do put them in a humidor at a lower humidity level than you might for a New World cigar, they age beautifully into the long term. I've shared some stuff with you that
like
I've sat on for 10 years.
Like levels out and like mellows a bit, and you still get some of that like spicy character, that robust character, but it's like it is like an aged wine.
Yes.
Like it is like a vintage wine.
The bouquet opens up a little bit more. You do perceive more sweetness than you would smoking them fresh. And again, they do age them before packaging and post-production. It stands to reason that more age would be better. But it's kind of expensive for them to age for 10 years. It's not that expensive for me to age it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I do recommend when you do find a Toscano that you love, cellar deep. You will thank yourself later.
Totally. Well, Shane, thank you so much for doing this. It's been fun to just sort of talk about this little,
this niche within the smoking world.
Yeah. So, I love everything that Toscano's doing, and they've also come out with like some more traditional size cigars as well. They're like Brenta, I believe.
Yep.
But I think for me, my daily drivers are still the Classico and
the Antico.
And the Antico, yeah. So,
but I think it's a whole world of exploration if you haven't already gone there, and if you're already a fan of Toscano, make sure you check out the Terre, and also recently released the Toscanello Limoncello.
Yeah,
which was probably the most talked about cigar at the trade show this year. Another just incredible combination of dark-fired rustic heritage and aromatics that are really fun when they're combined.
Yeah, and such a unique Italian flavor too. So, well, thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to drop us a comment and let us know what your favorite Toscano cigar is, and we'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.